Aloha everyone, what's going on my dudes? Welcome to another RuneScape news coverage video. For this video, we're going to talk about excavating in the archaeology skill, how your level and mattock play a role in your ability to do so. So we're going to jump right in the video.
Cats is the illest. What you talking about, Willis?
Alright guys, in case you are wondering where I'm getting this information, this is directly from Jagex from the latest live stream. So hopefully by the end of this you'll get a good understanding of exactly how excavation works in archaeology and the things that affect your ability to do that very thing. So first and foremost, you probably have been playing archaeology, so you probably have a basic understanding of how you excavate. You find an excavation site, you click on it, your character will then start collecting soil, occasionally materials, and even less often than that, artifacts. You'll also notice there's time sprites, and you probably know that you want to be excavating from the site that has a time sprite on it, and you probably know that the blue bar above your head when you're excavating is your progress towards finding an artifact. That said, we're going to go into greater detail as to what's happening behind the scenes with everything we just talked about. So the first thing I'm going to mention is your archaeology level, because you may have a misunderstanding about how it works. Your archaeology level does help you with excavating. However, it only helps you out with finding materials, meaning it does not help you with finding artifacts, therefore does not help you with the blue bar above your head. Theoretically, somebody with 99 archaeology and someone with level 1 archaeology will fill the bar above their head at the exact same rate, with a little bit of caveats. Obviously, that person is going to have a better mattock if they're 99 as opposed to someone who's level 1, but if they both had bronze mattocks, for example, it would be identical the rate at which you fill that blue bar. So, as what I just said suggests, no, your level does not affect how fast you fill that bar, but obviously the mattock does. More specifically, if you mouse over the mattock, you probably noticed the precision and the focus stats. Now we're going to talk about what those are and how they affect excavating. So as I said, mattocks do affect how fast you fill that bar. More specifically, the precision stat is what affects how fast you fill that bar. The higher precision, obviously, the faster you'll able to fill up that bar. So that is why, even though your level does not affect how fast you'll come across an artifact, somebody with a higher level will find artifacts faster than someone with a lower level, simply because they have a higher precision, due to their mattock and probably due to the precision bonuses that you unlock through the Chronos shop. Also, while we're still talking about what affects the blue bar, your ability to find artifacts, that is the time sprite. Now, when you're excavating from a site that has a time sprite on it, you've probably noticed this icon on your buff bar called Sprite Focus. Now, this is a little poor naming on Jagex's part because Sprite Focus has nothing to do with the focus stat on your mattock, which we'll talk about later. Sprite Focus affects your precision, while focus on your mattock is an entirely different thing. Unfortunately, it works like that and ends up being very confusing, but hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to differentiate the two. So just remember, the sprite affects only your precision, not your focus, despite being called Sprite Focus. So there's not much that really needs to be explained about Sprite Focuses because it's pretty straightforward when you mouse over it on your action bar. If the buff is active, you get a 10% increase to your Archaeology XP. If the buff is at 40%, you get a further 10% increase to your XP, as well as a 10% increase to your mattock's precision, which is, again, your speed that you fill that blue bar. And then at 100, you're guaranteed a material, as well as 4 times precision for a single strike. Then your focus drops back down to 60 and builds up again. So for the most part, your time sprite really is only affecting your ability to find artifacts, except for that one case where you do reach 100 and you're guaranteed a material. Outside of that particular case, it's only affecting your artifact collection. That said, we're now going to focus on the other stat on your mattock, the focus stat. This stat is what affects your ability to find materials. And as I stated earlier on in the video, so does your archaeology level. So these are the two things that factor into how often you find the materials that you use to restore those artifacts. So to shift over and talk about material caches now, since there is no time sprite mechanic, and since the precision stat on your mattock only affects your ability to find artifacts, these two things, time sprites and your precision stat, can be completely ignored when it comes to excavating at material caches. They can also be ignored at normal excavation sites when determining your ability to get materials from those sites. Only reason why I chose to focus on material caches for this portion of the video is simply to illustrate the importance of the focus stat with finding materials in contrast to how little precision affects materials, which is to say not at all. They have no effect whatsoever, so your precision stat might as well be 0 when factoring material caches. Again, that is material caches and not the standard excavation sites. So as I said, what does affect it is indeed your archaeology level. So if you have a higher archaeology level, you are more likely to get the resource than somebody else with a lower archaeology level, especially if you're both competing for the same resource at a material cache. And also the focus stat on your mattock plays a role in how fast you're able to come across materials at a material cache. The higher the stat you see in focus, then the faster you're going to come across materials. That's pretty straightforward. So hopefully you now understand how the stats in your archaeology level play into excavating. Remember that precision affects your ability to collect artifacts, as well as the time sprites do, and the focus stat, as well as your archaeology level, is what affects your ability to collect materials. That said, the last thing I do want to touch on is there are several temporary boosts that you can get from the Chronotes shop that I don't really need to go into detail as to what they do, because when you mouse over them, activate them, and check them out on your action bar, they are pretty straightforward. Basically, one of them affects your precision, therefore your ability to collect artifacts. One affects your ability to collect soil. Another, your ability to collect materials. And then finally, there's one that boosts your XP while excavating. Don't really need to go into more detail. Those are as straightforward as they possibly could be. Once again, you can get those at the Chronotes shop in the Archaeology Guild, and you also will come across them by completing Tetra compasses, which you find through excavating in archaeology. Anyways, that wraps up the video. I do hope that helps clear up how excavating works, how your level plays into it, and how your mattock does as well. If you do have any other questions that you're still confused about when it comes to how excavating works in the archaeology skill, then do comment below and I'll try my best to answer it and help you understand further. With that, I'm gonna wrap up the video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed yet and you want to stay up to date in all things RuneScape related, then hit that subscribe button. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. I am out. Aloha.